Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. And unfortunately, the flu I had last week has evolved into the most god-awful cold, so I do apologize if my voice is a little off today. I feel and look like an extra on the Walking Dead. But anyway, a quick wristwatch check before we get into this review, and if this thing will ever focus, a little pop of gold just to cheer me up, that beautiful linen dial. The day date is very useful when you're in a kind of feverish state and you can't remember what day or date or where you are. Or anyway, so what are we reviewing today? Well, today we are reviewing another cinematic icon from Hamilton. Now, Hamilton actually have a really interesting history with cinema, and I only was made aware of this recently. They've been featured in over 400 films, which is quite astonishing. And the watch we're looking at today is extremely interesting because Hamilton actually collaborated with Warner Brothers and Paramount Pictures for the movie Interstellar. Now, this is directed by Christopher Nolan, a British film director. It is, of course, a big Hollywood production, and in my opinion, one of his better, if not the best film he's done so far. Now, time actually plays a very critical role in the film Interstellar. Hamilton worked hand in hand with the production team to design a unique Hamilton timepiece for the character Murph, played by Mackenzie Foy, I believe it is, and then also Jessica Chastain. Not only that, they provided the Khaki Pilot Day Date for the character Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. Now, the plot of the film is basically a crew head out into the unknown in an effort to save the human race. And Hamilton watches can be seen in a few key scenes. In fact, the second watch in the movie, which has not been released, it's a real shame because it is absolutely stunning and designed specifically for the movie. And it's become known as the Murph watch. This was a combination of existing elements from watches already in Hamilton's khaki lineup, and you can see those very definitive design traits. It's unmistakably Hamilton. It has the appearance of a khaki field watch, but with slight kind of design cues taken also from their aviation watches. Now, Hamilton is famous very much for their aviation watches and also their military watches as well. And I did a video, I'll leave a link in the corner of the screen. Have a look back at an earlier video where I talk about Hamilton's quite unique history. They were, for the most part of their existence, they were actually an American brand, and now they're part of the Swatch Group. So these days they are Swiss made. Now, the Murph watch was used in a key scene, a very important role in the film, as it was set up to communicate via Morse code through space and time. The watch movement was modified by the prop master of the film to provide a required movement of the seconds hand. It was an actual practical effect because they didn't want CGI or post-processing. So there's wonderful close-ups in the actual film, and it's certainly worth a watch. It's really very well done indeed. And it's a real shame that this watch was not released into the khaki line, because I think, well, I would have snapped it up in a heartbeat. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But what we do have is the watch worn by Matthew McConaughey, and this is widely available, an incredible amount of watch for the money. So let's have a closer look. Now, the reference number is H64615135. Now, it is available in two dial colors. You can get the dial color that used in the film, which is the one we're reviewing today, and then there is a silver dial version. Of course, the silver dial version is not going to be as iconic as this one, although it is nice that there is some variety in the range. You can either get it on the bracelet like we see here, which has a double push button deploying there, very solidly done. It is, of course, all stainless steel, and there is a strap version as well. So let's get the dimensions out of the way first. The diameter of the piece is about 42 millimeters. The height is just under, a flick under 12 millimeters. Lug to lug, we're looking at 48 millimeters, and then lug width, we're looking at 20. Quite a contemporary size, well, definitely a contemporary size, and this, without a shadow of doubt, is very much a Flieger-inspired pilot's watch. We can see that Flieger aesthetic in the dial, although there is some very interesting mix here of typical Hamilton style traits, which we'll go into in just a moment. So the case is a beautiful mix of brushed surfaces, as we see on the sides, then contrasted beautifully by these beveled edges that curve down very elegantly. We have a polished bezel there, a signed crown with the H for Hamilton, of course. Extremely subtly domed sapphire, scratch-resistant sapphire. Now, I couldn't find out if there is anti-reflective coating. It does a good job. There's quite little glare on it compared to other watches, although I can't definitively say if there is or isn't. However, it's very, very legible. That contrast in polishing continues on the bracelet. We have a slightly raised center link. If we look really closely, we can see the sides, some beveled edges there with some high polish, just giving some extra detail to the bracelet. There is a micro adjustment on the clasp, which is a nice touch, and it is of course signed very simply Hamilton in that lovely, I wonder what font that is. I do like the Hamilton font, very classic. On the back of the watch we have a display back, and interestingly we have a screwed in case back. You can see the little screws in there, kind of in keeping with that tool aesthetic. The glass on the back, I believe, is also sapphire. Interestingly, we have crown guards, which is not something you see typically on a Flieger watch, and they do a great job. If you see it from this angle, they've curved them downwards so you can still grip the crown, and if you want to top it up or if you want to just pull the crown out. There's no screw down crown. The water resistance on this is about 100 meters. So the movement inside is Hamilton's H40 movement, which of course is, and it's even written on the back, based on the ETA 2834-2. I love this movement. I've reviewed it many times. I know it extremely well. It's a trusted movement. I mean, the 2834 has been going since the 70s, extremely robust, affordable to maintain, easy to replace any parts. There is no decoration on the movement. We see a nice signed rotor, but it's not about decoration. This, at the end of the day, is a tool watch. We do have the odd blued screw there, but I feel that's more actually for the watchmaker or whoever disassembles the movement if you need to. It's just for reference when taking it apart. It's not actually for any aesthetic purpose. It's a 25 jewel movement. It operates at 28,800 vibrations an hour. It has bidirectional winding. The power reserve is about 38 to 40 hours, and if I pull out the crown all the way, you'll see the seconds hand has stopped, so of course it's hackable. If I pull it to the first position and cycle through the date, you can see the date at the 6 o'clock. It's a quick set, and if I turn it the other way, it changes the day at the 12 there. What I love about this movement, if I just set it and then pull it out all the way and change the time, if we wind it forward, it has that, did you see it? It has that snappy change at midnight. When the crown is pushed all the way in, we have, of course, manual wind as well. So let's have a look at this dial, because this dial really is the best feature about this watch. We have some really interesting things going on. The dial itself has a slight, very slight sunburst effect, and in other instances, depending on the light, can look quite matted. At first glance, it looks like your classic Flieger, but yet it has some style traits typically of Hamilton. First of all, I love the way the day and the date are put at the 12 and 6. It gives the watch a really nice sense of symmetry. Then we have these semi-skeletonized hands. These are tapered sword hands, very typical of aviation watches, of course. But the way they're skeletonized is very specifically. If we see the hour hand here, it's skeletonized at the tip as it passes this 12-hour scale here. This allows you to read the number as it passes it, and you can see the date at the 6. Very, very subtle but lovely attention to detail. The second hand is extremely long with an arrow tip, and I love the way it touches the minute markings at the edge of the dial, which really gives it that, so typical of Flieger watches. The minute hand is another sword hand there, this time skeletonized in reverse, so you're able to distinguish between the hands when it's at low light level with the Loom. In fact, let's look at the Loom shot right now. Loom is really responsive. It is, of course, superluminova. Now, unlike a lot of Fliegers, the numerals, the main numerals that are in a countdown fashion, so we have 10, 15, 20, are not loomed up. It's a bit of a shame. They are in fact applied, which is not your typical trait of a Flieger. They usually be printed with Loom. The applied numerals also give a much more three-dimensional quality to them, but this makes the watch a little bit more dressy. That kind of styling has gone into the case and all these little extra details. That's what Hamilton brings. I mean, if we look at Hamilton's most iconic watches, like the Ventura, very curvaceous, very 50s in its Cadillac winged style, and we see a little bit of that in the case. Some of those curves, some of the refinements in the polishing is present here. So in many ways, it's an amalgamation of a tool, pilot tool watch, dressed up a little bit more refined, a little bit more elegantly done. It is extremely legible. Now, while it suffers a little bit in its lack of the numerals being loomed, in daylight, the way the numerals catch the light and play with the light makes it extremely legible. It's also quite a big watch. Now, you guys know I tend to go on a bit of a anti-big watch crusade. I tend to not favor them. However, this is one of the few exceptions. As we all know, pilot watches, the originals way back at the beginning of the 20th century, some of them were huge. I mean, up to 55 millimeters. So this is actually quite modest. And I think 42 millimeters is the crowd pleaser. It's certainly a popular size and probably one of the most popular sizes. So let's pop it on the wrist and see how it wears. And there we go. Now, it is a big piece. Personally, I would have loved it to be a 38 millimeters. However, because of that curved case, it really does hug the wrist beautifully. As you move it around and those numerals play in the light, it has a quite dazzling effect. It's enticing, it's interesting, but without being flashy or gaudy. It's a tool watch, yet it's elegant. I really do think Hamilton got the design perfect with the dial. There are some tiny little things that I feel could have been even more refined, but we'll get into that in just a moment. In terms of comfort, it's extremely comfortable, and it wears very, very flat. It's it could easily slip under the cuff of a shirt. The bracelet feels solid. The end links are solid. It's beautifully made. The quality of the finish is definitely there. You can feel it. It's got some serious heft. We're looking at about 156 grams with the bracelet. Now, what is great is the lug width was only 20 millimeters. So I think, this could really work with a whole variety of straps. Probably a tiny bit top heavy perhaps, but you don't really notice. Usually with a 42 millimeter diameter, you'll see, 22 millimeter lug width. But I think actually it works pretty well. So let's summarize the watch. Well, I think it's a perfect everyday watch. It's robust, it's reliable, it's practical. The day date complication is extremely useful. Not only that, the dial layout is extremely legible. Also, I think it's a fantastic way to own a movie icon without breaking the bank. This retails at just under 1,000, I think 945, although you can buy them on Amazon all over the place for around the $600 mark. So incredible value for money and half the price of the Zin 104. Is it half as good? No, not at all. I think this is a really outstanding watch. I think what is fantastic about it is that layout. It's beautifully designed. A lot of thought and attention went into it. There's a really nice sense of symmetry and balance, the way everything is laid out. So let's talk about negatives. Well, I feel it would have been nice to have some Loom on that seconds hand. Also, to improve orientation in low light, I would have preferred maybe some Loom applied to that triangle at the 12 o'clock. I can understand sacrificing looms in those numerals. Also, is the display back really needed? It's nice that it's there, but with such a utilitarian, undecorated movement, I feel it is a little bit superfluous. Perhaps it would have been nice not to have it and keep costs down even more so, make this watch even more affordable. My only critique of this watch is really the fonts used on the dial. The Hamilton logo is in one font, automatic is in another, and then the day at the top is in a third font. Very nitpicking here, but I think it could have been cleaned up a tiny bit. But really, really, it's a fantastic watch. The quality is there. I think it's incredible value for money. And also, I've got to say, it was cast very, very well. I actually went and bought the film just so I could rewatch it, get my thoughts on the watch. And I've got to say, it really was an excellent bit of watch casting. I think it suits Cooper, the character played by Matthew McConaughey, very, very well, because he was a farmer, but yet a pilot. Being American, of course, Hamilton has that American heritage, yet it's believable that is his watch. It really is. And actually, the other watch, the Murph watch that they specifically built for the film as well, apparently Hamilton only had a few days to come up with that design. So the fact that they have the experience, the watchmaking knowledge, the know-how, the facilities to come up with something just so beautiful, it's just a shame it's not for sale. But really an outstanding watch. A few tiny little details that could have been improved, but really nitpicking. Beautiful watch. Anyway, massive thank you to my good friend Jason for lending it in, and I do apologize, I'm running a bit behind with my reviews. Please let me know your thoughts, queries, questions, opinions, especially if you own this watch. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about it? Please do comment down below. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.